spirit worlds have said to me many times, it doesn't matter how you sound, what language you speak, where you have come from, our hearts beat as one. And bringing all these people together under this wonderful opportunity to explore a world in which I love and has changed my life for over 20 years. Where physical mediumship is concerned, it can move you to a place from believing to knowing in a heartbeat. When you see the extraordinary things that I have seen within the darkness of a seance room, to have loved ones stand in front of you who are being called dead, and they're speaking to you in their voice, holding you, kissing you, and telling you things about your life, but you're having that opportunity to say exactly what you want to say to them, which you kind of feel that death robbed you of. And in these times that I wish to share with you is to kind of give you some insights to the subject, which is limitless, that is known as physical mediumship. And physical mediumship is like a diamond. It has many facets, and each facet of this mediumship makes the diamond whole. So we'll be looking at basic overshadowing, going into the alter states, moving to the doorway of trance states, and then obviously to physical, and explaining the jargon that you find a lot of spiritualists use when they say, oh, I transfigured versus overshadowing, what direct voice is, indirect voice, ectoplasm, teleplasm, and what is materialization versus full materialization. And if you are lucky enough to sit with a medium that has the capability of full materialization, you're able to see your loved one standing in a room with about 30 people, and everyone in the room can see them, even if they're a medium or not, and you're able to have that conversation with them and hug them and kiss them, which I did in many occasions with Gordon Higginson. And Gordon Higginson was the pioneer of our movement and saved the Arthur Findlay College, a beautiful place that I recommend anyone to go who are seeking to find questions that lead to greater questions. I think that's the right word to say. But what I would like to offer you guys and girls who are seekers of the truth, to find that sacred space within you, to lay the foundations of your gift and to see where it will lead you. I don't necessarily agree with labels when someone says, oh, you're a physical medium. Well, actually, I'm a seeker of the truth. And if I label my gift, I've limited my gift. So for you to just move into that silence, into that power, and allow whatever's to blossom to take hold, it can lead you to the doorway of something quite beautiful. Over the years of teaching, not only here in the United Kingdom, but in Europe, and this year going further afield, I've come to a realization to understand that as we sit for what is known as the power, it moves us into a state of oneness that allows all your abilities to reap the benefit of it. If you're sitting for physical, you're sitting for trance or mental or healing, the power is the same. It's just how it passes through you. That's when it makes it unique to you. I've been very fortunate enough to sit for 7.5 years in a darkened room every night besides Christmas, or if you were ill, and see extraordinary things happen through the mediums that I help train and develop, and had the privilege to call them friends. And that was Colin Fry, David Thompson, Stuart Alexander, and Joan Avison, to name but a few. And to be able to sit in the company of the spirit with a medium that's able to move into that power and to change the very atmosphere of the room. And then from the darkness and from the silence of that room, you get to hear the voices. Silver Birch, who was one of our greatest philosophers, who spoke through the wonderful instrument of Maurice Barbanel, gave us a wonderful insight to our abilities by saying, the activity of your world is the silence of ours. The silence of your world becomes the activity of ours. And that kind of gives us an insight. If we go to the spirit world demanding and shouting and being very noisy within our mind, we silence that power, we silence our gift. And it's only when we are quiet and we are still then it moves us to a place where we're able to hear the spirit. And it's taken me many years to understand that and to lead me to this point, and I still have further to go. If anyone says they've reached that point, I think they still have a long, long way to go, because our gifts are infinite, therefore it is eternal. And what we don't achieve within this life, we certainly achieve in the world unseen. And the voice came to me one time, and it's been said through the trance states, that really, is our mediumship here to benefit us within this world, or is it to be used when we actually leave this physical body and go to the spirit world, and our gifts are used then to attain higher knowledge, then move it back through the layers of consciousness back to this reality, so that we can inspire other people who are like you and I at this moment seeking the truth. My control, I'm an old-fashioned girl. I like the word control instead of guide. My control, my friends from the other world, and those who I call friends, as I sit for them, I give them the respect of the putting their world first. And I've come to a realization in our modern world that mediums today seem to snatch the power and snatch the information, instead of going to the spirit people and moving into that power and saying to the other world, here I am, this is me. And as one medium does this, if the other world so surrenders to that condition, and you are able to surrender to that influence, then they are able to do extraordinary things through you. I never set out to be a physical medium. I sat out trying to find comfort from this physical life that we live, and I was very blessed enough to be moved into a situation where I was able to see trumpets lift and voices come out from the dark, and to have a spirit person walk out solid in front of me, in front of about 35 people who were able to, for a brief moment, engage in conversation. But in these times that I wish to share with you, I also will explain the purpose of what these are. I don't know if you can see it. This is a trumpet, a very old beaten trumpet. It's been in existence within spiritualism for about 70 years now. The original owner of this trumpet was Leslie Flint. He was an independent direct voice medium. In the early days of his unfoldment, he never liked the trumpet. He never liked this form of phenomena. It used to scare him. He used to focus solely on independent direct voice. It was given from Leslie to John Austin, who was my circle leader, who gave it to Colin Fry, and it was used within the seances of Colin Fry's, and then it was handed back to him, to John Austin, and then it was handed to me, and it will find its owner. And I will tell you in these sessions what the relationship within physical, what a trumpet does. Now, you may be more used to seeing a trumpet very similar to this, which is, again, it's a cone. It glows in the dark at the bottom. It's of some kind of weight, and this plays a vital part within physical mediumship. But in the early days of my understanding of physical, when we saw this move and float in the air, I was cheering, I was going, yeah, woo, woo, as you do, encouraging the spirit people with all my might. And it stopped in front of me. And as it stopped in front of me, a voice came from it, and a voice went, does this impress you? And I said, yes, it does. And it dropped to the ground, and it says it proves nothing. And then the spirit person walked into the cabinet, and out came a loved one. And if I remember rightly, it was someone's mother. And the mother was able to speak to their loved one for about 7 minutes. They hugged and they kissed. And then the mother walked back into the cabinet. And then the gravelly old voice, what said, does this impress you, came back. And he said, would you like us to prove to you that life is eternal? Or would you like us to perform like circus animals by lifting the trumpet? You decide. And I felt that was a very strong learning curve for me, to set out the intent of why we sit for physical, and why you should sit as a medium or a seeker of the truth. If you go to the spirit world demanding, I want to achieve this, I want to achieve that, you are limiting a limitless power, when really we should then go to the spirit world and say, right, how can I serve you? And there is this very simple technique that I would like to share with you to help you with this. And if this is our first and last time we speak together, is that I would ask you very kindly to ask yourself where you experience love. And you know, when you see a child run towards you, or an animal, and it makes you feel gooey inside, is to find out where that gooey feeling is and take your awareness to it. And as you take your awareness to that area, is then just to offer a thought to the spirit world and say, here I am, this is me. I am here to serve, take from me what's needed. And for you to just do that simple act, that's moved you into the power. And I believe that the soul's power is where we feel love, where we feel unconditional love. So that is the root of your strength. That's the root of your mediumship. And as you keep moving yourself into that area of oneness, then other ability will start to manifest. If you were to ask me or any medium, how do we do it? A true medium will turn around and say, we don't know, it just happens. And that's because we have built up the relationship between us and the power, because the spirit world are in charge of our ability, not us. And the more we kind of resist, the more we demand, the more we kick back, we're starting to stunt our ability, when really we should just surrender to that wholeness and just move within that moment. So what you will find from me, and what you probably found out before we started this talk, I have a sense of humor, and I try and make people laugh, and you, as a medium, you have to laugh at yourself. There'll be times as a medium you have to embrace those no's and celebrate the yeses. Have you ever done those messages where you just stand up and you go, right, ladies and gentlemen, this is, and you give out all this wonderful information and someone says no, and it kind of knocks your confidence. And it's the same when we are sitting in the trance state. When you're sitting there and blending, and I suppose that if any of you are sitting at the moment, you're probably having this battle saying, is it me or is it them? When really we should say it is us. And for you to start empowering yourself and saying it is us, you are accepting that there will be you in the communication as well as the spirit people. It's you saying that the spirit people will use your voice as you will use their inspiration, so that they are able then to dust your consciousness, to build up that relationship that you will have, and then all of a sudden, when you least expect it, the voice will then manifest. It took me very quickly to understand. On the first sitting, when I sat for physical, we had knocks and bangs on command. And on the 11th sitting, we had a voice in midair. And the voice went, yes, or yes, and like that. And did you like my impression there? Yes. But the voice came out up in the air. And then we had nothing for 2.5 years. And you kind of think the gift leaves you. And you'll probably find this within your own mediumship and unfoldment, in that you'll find that you seem to go really, really well, and then all of a sudden it feels like the spirit people abandon you, and you're left by yourself, and you're thinking, have I done something wrong? Have I moved into it wrong? But really what's happened is that you as an individual and your friends are in sync with each other. The vibration is in compatibility. It's in harmony. And what's happened is that the spirit people have moved close to you, and it takes time for you to readjust. But you are draining this power constantly. So if you can imagine that your gift is like a reservoir of power, and every time you go in to use your mediumship, you're pulling on this reservoir, you're drinking from this, and it's slowly starting to dip. So as you develop as a medium, you need to start sitting as often as you can to replenish this power, to replenish this oneness and this deepness and connection. My circle for physical, we sit every Wednesday. Even if I'm there or not, they still sit. And they sit to provide the power that I can then work in. Within your home circle, you develop. When you do a demonstration, you're demonstrating what you can do. So your home circle will develop you. So in our time that we share together, you'll hear me keep saying, go back to home circle, go back to sit, go back to the power, and you'll find that it will strengthen your gift, and then it will move you to that place of oneness. But with physical mediumship or any form of communication, it takes years, and you must be dedicated. If you are striving for the ultimate gift, and I do believe that physical is the ultimate gift, but I'm biased because I love it. If you are striving for that, you need to ensure that you are going to be dedicated. As a medium of any sort or a healer, you are doing the work of the spirit world. You're surrounded by death all the time, and you have to have a sense of humor, but you also have to realize that you're healers between the two worlds, healing the need of the bereaved as well as healing the need of the spirit. And if you can come to that place of acceptance, and then you are able to allow that power to pass through you. Now, my little lovers, you will find as you go to courses that there are people who want to get noticed. And unfortunately, this evil head of ego seems to creep in. And I always like to say, the ego is always hungry, but never full. It needs to be fed. It needs to be touched. It needs to be that. Or you can have mediums who are like Tinkerbell. They need the claws to live. And it's knowing and accepting that the ego does need attention within our gifts, but it's not allowing it to become the master of the house. But you'll find that empty barrels make the loudest noise. So when you hear people come on courses and they shout it out, you've got to kind of feel empathy or some form of healing towards them, because they truly want to be the medium, but they're kind of forgetting the spirit world. They're forgetting those people in the other world who are trying to find their voice through you. But where trance is concerned, you will beat yourself up. You will constantly need reassurance, because there's an internal battle within your mind. Is it me or is it them? As I've dealt with, it is now us. The other world will say words into your mind, and then you think, I'm not brave enough to say that. And still, after 20 years, I still have this internal battle. So it won't go away, but I will reassure you that it will get easier as we go along. But once you get the other world talking, that you'll never shut them up, and you'll never win an argument with them. You'll never win an argument with your guide, because they will come back with spiritual things instead. But I just want to show you a couple of things which were attained through the mediumship of Colin Fry. Colin Fry was a physical medium who started sitting back in the 90s. It took 21 weeks until he was able to produce a materialized form. And I was very fortunate to live 5 minutes from his house. His circle leader, John Austin, was my circle leader. So when Colin started to retire as physical, I got a lot of his stuff. And when John died, I inherited a lot of them. And I don't know if you can see, but there's a hand mold. Can you see that clearly? If you just do that, if you can see it. Lovely. Thank you very, very much. Now, this is a hand of someone called Magnus. And Magnus was the principal voice of the Swift Circle, which sat at 25A Marina Avenue off of Wish Road. And how this was achieved was with paraffin wax. You know, when, come on, men, you've got to own up to this. You know, when you go into places to make yourself look better, they may do manicures, so they put paraffin wax. So they heat up the wax. So what you do, you heat the wax up under the instructions of the spirit people. You take it into your seance room. The spirit people materialize. They put their hands into the molds, and then what they do is that they dematerialize, and they're putting cold water in as well, and it makes a perfect solid glove. And then what we do as sitters, at the end of it, we pour past the paraffin, and we get a beautiful little hand mold. So this hand mold was achieved on the 12th of the 10th, 1999. We have other hands as well. We have fingers. Each finger is intricately detailed. We had to, after we achieved the hand molds, each sitter had to be fingerprinted. The medium was fingerprinted, and then the molds were fingerprinted as well. And the fingerprints of the molds that we got didn't match anyone within the room. It was someone from the spirit world. They're able to become solid by using ectoplasm, and through concentration they move into it, and they're temporarily cloaked for a brief moment of time. But those are hand molds. The other world also like to bring a thing called apports, which are objects which are taken from a location and then brought them into the seance room. So this is one apport. I don't know if you can see. It's like we're brothers. Do you think we're brothers? So basically, it doesn't look like me in the morning. So this was achieved back in 2014? Yeah. 2014. I was working at the Arthur Findlay College at the time, and in Home Circle, that the spirit people, so I was searched beforehand, and then all of a sudden we had a mighty bang, and we thought one of the sitters had fallen off her chair. And on that night there was another bang noise, and when the light came on, this was there. And also some silver nutcrackers. I was given to Christine?
Yes.
Yeah, silver nutcrackers, which I don't have. This one we do. And
there are photographs of them on the website.
There's photographs on the website of some of the apports. Now, what was really interesting with this apport is that there's a sister to this. And we had a lady what was coming over from Holland, and she just happened to stay with us. So after the seance, she came back from Banyan to our house, and we opened up the door, and on pride of place within our living room was this. And as she walked in, she went, "Oh, I used to have one of those. I've got the other one to go with it." But she said, "My one went missing." So obviously I just kind of went, "Really?" So they do sometimes take objects, which I think is real good evidence, because I'd never been to this lady's house, and this appeared in our room in England. So I've said I've got a bit OCD, so I always like two. So I've told Daniel, who was the one that stole it, that I want the other one. So we are waiting for a little gift from the spirit world. No demands, of course, but these are called apports. So if they take an object away, it's called an asport. And if they put an object in your room, it's called an apport. Asport, asport away, apport they bring. So that's one of them. It's reasonably big, it's reasonably heavy. It's not the biggest one we've had through our mediumship. In Kingswell's house in Scotland, we had 2 leather-bound chairs stacked on top of each other within the centre of the seance room, which went up to about 5.5 foot. So that was the biggest. And you'll find through your development, you'll find that you will have peculiarities. And I want to make this absolutely clear. The phenomena that moves through me is a peculiarity of my work. The phenomena that will work through you guys is a peculiarity of your work. And never try and be the same person. You know, when God made you, he broke the mold. So be you in every sense of the word. And don't ever try and copy. It's the most important that you realize that the other world are so interested in you, and it's about finding what that interest is, and it's about sitting and experiencing the love of the spirit world and just see where it goes. So that's really little bits about physical mediumship. There's so much more I can tell you. There's a lovely, as we were talking about apports, and we are going to cover apports in one of the lessons, so I've got to I don't care, let's go for it, just for a moment. There was a wonderful medium called Florence Cook. And Florence Cook had a control called Katie King. And Katie King used to materialize, and her mediumship was investigated by Sir William Crookes, who was a very well-known researcher at the time. And as Sir William Crookes was investigating Florence Cook's mediumship, they used to get her to lay on the floor, and they used to nail her hair to the floorboards. So they would pull her hair out and then nail it to the floor to stop her moving, to ensure it wasn't her who was doing the phenomena. And on this occasion, that Katie King materialized and said to the circle, "What would you like us to do for you?" And the spirit people the sitters turned around to the spirit person and said, we would like you to produce an apport, please, which is obviously an object brought into the room. So the spirit person said, of course, what would you like? And someone very cheekily turned around and said, I would like you to bring the medium, Mrs. Glover. And Mrs. Glover was an automatus medium, which means that she was able to do automatic writing. And she was sitting at her writing desk, and what came over her was this peculiarity feeling like she was feeling very dizzy. She closed her eyes and then opened them, and there she was in the middle of the seance room. And then all of a sudden, a pair of walking boots fell from the ceiling, and then a winter's jacket, because she was in her nightgown. And the spirit people were able to bring her, but they weren't able to take her back. So she had to put the shoes on, put the coat on, and in her nightwear, walk the 3 miles back home. And that was her ability with Florence Cook. And Eusapia Palladino used to be able to say, I would like you to read this book, and this book would float off the shelf and land in her hand. And then she'll give you the book, and then she will say, right, give it back to me when you're done. And then all of a sudden, that as she was, say, 2-3 months and you haven't returned the book, she used to put her hand out and say, bring it back. And then it would appear out the air and land in her hand. Could you imagine, you know, tonight, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to try on the crown jewels. And then put them just as occasionally as you'd like to do. And the other world are able just to take it, or tonight I'm having a party, can I have the Mona Lisa here? And see it just appear. And I think that's quite awesome. But the spirit world do say an apport has to come from a place where it's not loved. So they can't take things which are precious to you. They will move objects as they do to remind you that death is not the end. They will give you opportunities to allow yourself to say, was that possible? Or is that possible? And that's where physical is so important at this moment in time. It can move you from that place of knowing to absolutely your rock is there. I have no fear of death. I know there is a world beyond this world. I fear the process of dying, but I don't fear dying itself. But I would love you to find your own journey within your mediumship, because the spirit world needs you. And if we are to look upon ourselves as little sparks of light, and wherever you are within your world, you are a spark of light, you are a point of hope. And when we're brought together, my, how bright the light will be. So wherever you are within your gift, never give up. And that's the most important thing. I was reminded just recently when someone said to me, why do you do what you do? And it's quite simple. Many years ago, I attended a physical seance, and my purpose in the seance room was to make sure everyone was sitting in the right place. So energetically, I had to fill them and say, right, you over there, you over there, you over there. And a husband and wife walked into a seance room, and you didn't have to be gifted to know that this person or these people had been destroyed by something. And because I didn't know who they were, and my job is to ensure the safety of our medium, I put them at the furthest part of the room. Colin came in, he was searched, he was tied down, and the curtain was drawn around him. So the moment the lights turned out, all of a sudden there was a voice that came from the cabinet. And with this voice, you heard footprints or footsteps. And this young lad walked out by the name of Andy, and he said, Mum, I know what you're planning to do, don't do it. And this boy started to walk in the middle of the room. And you try and tell a woman whose son has gone to the other world to calm down, because this woman has started to scream. My job is to ensure that Colin is safe. And I was quite concerned about this person. And the husband was joining in as well. The voice of their son was getting stronger as he was walking past me. The drag queen, Dolly, materialized from the cabinet and walked over to me and sat on my lap. She was in a sequin dress. She had a very bony bum, Her hair was right down her back. She used to say her hair is right down her Jim and Jack, which is down her back. And the moment she sat on me, I realized then everything was going to be all right. For 15 minutes, this boy had a voice. For 15 minutes, he was able to answer his mother and his father. They were able to talk, and they spoke about stuff which were only personal to them. The mother got upset. As we are human beings, we started to get upset as well. The power of the seance was starting to weaken. Dolly lifted from me and walked over to the cabinet, and there was whispering, and Andy said, "Mum, I'm going to have to go back now. I've got to go." And she said, "Don't you dare leave me." And the voice came back and said, "No, I would never leave you." The voice started to go back towards the cabinet, and as they started to walk back to the cabinet, the legs started to dissolve, so it was only just the torso left of this boy. We joined hands to give him a bit more power, and the voice started to weaken, and he said, "Mum, I remember what I said. I know what you're planning to do. Don't do it. I love you forever. Goodbye." And he went back into the cabinet. So we, as an individual, and the mum was crying, we were crying. Dolly then walked out the cabinet, what sounded like she had a martini in her hand. She went, "Oh!" the emotion, and started swaying around the room, which made us laugh, which then built the power back up, and that then the seance continued. At the end of the seance, instead of me just throwing these people out into the street, I made them a cup of tea, and I sat down and I wanted to know if the information that was given in the seance was relevant and was accurate, because if it wasn't, I would have to take Colin out of the public eye and sit and develop him even further. And it was absolutely true. Everything was said was bang on the money. And she said that we've been to all these different mediums, and none of them were able to give me the satisfying answer that I requested, that my son lived on. We made a promise that if our son didn't come through this night, we were going to continue our journey from Hayward Heath to Brighton and walk hand in hand into the sea and end their life. Andy's first message was, Mum, I know what you're planning to do, don't do it." So on that night, Colin's mediumship saved 2 people. But now the husband sits as a trance medium, their son Andy works through him, and Andy brings children through the mediumship. So not only on that night did he save a husband and wife, his legacy, Colin's legacy now, is that more people have that opportunity to have that bit of oxygen, to know that death is not the end. And that's why I do it. That's why we sit. Now, I've seen that some people are saying, why is physical happen in the dark? Physical mediumship starts off in the dark, and over time, the power starts to reveal itself, and the spirit world then introduces the light. If you look at your life, you were born in darkness within the womb of a mother. Or if you look at a flower, how a flower is created within the confines of a seed, what falls silently to the earth. So things start in darkness and then reveals itself to the light. I actually would like to train everyone in darkness, even mental mediums, because when you sit in light, that's fine, but try sitting in total darkness. You'll find that the power shifts. The energy of the room gets colder. You feel there is an essence of power and presence there. And it takes away the sight, because our eyes deceive us, and it gives the opportunity for your inner sight to then awaken. Now, you may find this at home when you're in your bedroom or in your sanctuary or place of sitting, that when you look at power, if they look like jellyfish, I call it the jellyfish. You see these like blobs in the air, and it's energy, and it's like you squeeze your eyes really tight, but you still see them. This is power. And what you can do is speak to this power and say, I am aware of you, help me. Just help me understand. And for you just to engage within that influence, the other world will respond, and then they will then bring things closer to you. But I do believe over time that as you sit in the dark, it helps your clairsentient ability to unfold. It helps your clairvoyance, because as you feel that information, it moves you into such a place where it gives you sight. And as you get sight, then that opens the door for the hearing side of it. Would you meditate in the dark? be beneficial to strengthen mediumship? Well, meditation will help focus you, Carol, but also as you sit in the dark, remember to move into power. Meditation and power are two different things. When power will drive your mediumship forward, meditation will help focus you. Where you move into power is a form of prayer, again, which I'll cover in our times together. But you'll find that it will help you. You'll find within mediumship, within any forms, but you'll be like a firework. You'll move into it as quickly, but you seem to not be able to sustain the link or to sustain the concentration because the power drains. And that we can address by getting you to sit for power, which is slightly different to meditation. So I hope that makes sense. Sorry, I'm starting to get used to Zoom now. I just realized there's another page. Yeah, here we go. Sorry, I'm just going through it. Hi. Jan Yakov, JJ, hi. Sorry. Sorry, I just found out another page. Anyway, this is me back. Hi, how are you doing? So in our times, in our sessions, what I would like to cover will be the difference between mental mediumship and physical mediumship, and give you the difference between, because I hear a lot of times within workshops, people say to me, I see the spirit person standing solid in front of me, so this is physical. Well, actually, it can be a clairvoyant image, and I kind of want to show you the difference between the two. I also want to address what this, when people say, oh, I transfigured, well, actually, it could be overshadowing. Again, teach or try and share with you the difference between overshadowing and transfiguration. I also would like to address the direct voice through the voice box, through the ectoplasm. What that is, you have indirect voice and direct voice, or it could be clairaudience. I also would like to share with you what materialization is, and something that we have been discussing with Alison and Christine, as well as Nick, who's sitting behind me, who is the proprietor of Banyan, is that on one occasion I wish to go into the trance states and to allow the control to speak, whoever that may be, and to then answer questions from you, for them to then speak to you, or maybe give you an exercise of how to move into something. I don't know how that will happen. If I said to you it will happen like this, I've interfered. It's about giving the spirit people the opportunity to facilitate within my mind, to give them a voice that they can speak through me, to help you in whatever way I can. Of course, there's no silly questions. I will answer questions as much as I can through our time, because it's important that you try and unknot this ball of string within your mind, which seems to be imprisoning you at this moment. Our mediumship, I believe, is like the seasons. Sometimes the sun is really bright and it's nice and warm. Sometimes the sun's there, but you can't feel the warmth from it, it's cold. And other times you can't see it at all. And our gifts within our mediumship, it does seem to be like that. But we seem to get a glimpse, but we don't get the feeling behind it. Or some days it just seems to move as one. So I find that really, really beautiful. And that's what I want to help you with. I can't make you a medium. I wish I could. But I can lead you to the doorway. I can lead you to the shores of the possibility. And it's up to you to then go beyond it. For whatever reason, we have been brought together because each of you have asked the spirit world, I wish to serve, I wish to move forward. And you may not have heard the answer straight away, but maybe the other world are just bringing us together so we can exchange a thought, exchange a power. Even though that you're sitting at your home, there is no distance between us and the spirit. We are linked as one. Silver Birch says, and it hangs within my center in Burgess Hill, he describes the seance room and this beautiful saying. It says, to you this is a little room, to us it is a grand temple. These little walls have vanished, the radiance dazzling of brilliance. Hundreds upon hundreds assemble here, each with a mission to perform, some to serve and some to be served. And I find that very powerful, especially when you sit within your cupboard or at home or in your sanctuary or in your cabinet. To you, this is a little room. To us, to the spirit world, it is a grand temple. And it's about creating within your sacred space an environment that you would be happy to welcome your friends in. because the spirit world are our friends. They're our greatest teachers. And one thing you will hear from me time and time again, I will say, go back to the other world and ask. For you to go back to the spirit world and to keep talking backwards, back to them, builds up that wonderful connection and builds that bridge. And you'll start to feel the answers. You start to know the answers. You start to accept their love. Because death has silenced them from our physical ears. But love is love, and love can never die. So just please bear that in mind as you are going forward. If this is the first or last time I see you, please keep going back to the spirit world and build up that love and connection. Now, I've waffled quite a lot because I do get on one. And in our times, you'll hear me speak a lot, but then I want to hear from you guys. So,
and Scott, this is Allison. Hello.
Oh, it's like the voice of God. Hello.
It might be easier since the questions are kind of coming in quickly. If we can go through them and I can read a couple to you.
Please, because you know me and writing don't get on.
Okay, so one question is, and for those of you who don't know, Scott is teaching a course. This is actually the introduction, which is a free introduction, but then he has 5 modules, which he'll be teaching beginning in April. So it'll be a continuation of this free intro. But Kim asks, will you cover the proper way to set up a home circle
Yes.
in your course?
Yes, absolutely, because the home circle is the foundations. You get these people who come together, bless them, have you ever been part of a group where you get everyone together and you're like, yeah, we're going to sit, and then all of a sudden one falls out with each other and then it just falls apart. Or you sit and it just doesn't seem to be igniting. And it's about giving you the mindset of how you should walk into that room, how you should be while you're sitting, but also be open to the spirit world. And I will cover that for them.
Wonderful. I'm just kind of jumping around here. Sandra asks, do people have to be mediums to do this course, or can you just have an interest in physical mediumship?
No, you can either be a medium or you can have an interest. Now, the one thing what physical mediums really need is good circle sitters and people who are able for the medium to feel relaxed enough to be vulnerable in that power, and so that the people who are able to experience the wonderful unfoldment. I don't know, I'm going to probably shoot myself in the foot. I don't know why people want to be a medium. I really don't. Be the sitter. As you be the sitter, you get to experience the levitations of the trumpets, you experience the voices, you experience the wisdom that's coming through without, as a medium, you beat yourself up and you imprison yourself and all of that. So if you're not a medium, but you wish to sit and partake, absolutely, because we need to share this wisdom and education so that we continue our unfoldment and continue ensuring that physical will stay alive, because physical is slowly dying. I don't think there is no death, but it's slowly weakening because the education isn't there. I'm an old-fashioned person, but I like the old school sitting, and that's how I was trained.
And Scott, I love in your interview earlier, I think it was last month, how you answered the question, how, do you have to be young to start being a physical medium? Or can it come at any age?
Oh, it comes at any age. Oh, it does. You'll find that the gift starts to reveal itself. Any form of communication with the other world seems to reveal itself when you're a child. And then when you go through puberty, it can either become extremely active or it can start to become dormant. And then throughout your life, you get signs. Now, for me, I was very fortunate at the age of 15 being put into my first physical seance. And I was very, very young. I held the title of the youngest person sitting at that time in the United Kingdom that was known of. But my friend of mine who's now in the other world, bless her, Joan Avison, she was in her 70s. She was a heavy smoker. She said it as it was. She had lung cancer. You would hear her gasping. But when she went into the trance states, you didn't hear any of the ailment, any of the cancer. The voice of Tob you would hear her go, buh, buh, and then the voice would appear in the air. And one of the controls was Freddie, and you would hear Freddie speak to us, and you would have Sparrow come in. And it didn't matter how old you are, as long as you have the intent, the love, and that openness to explore, I think anything is possible.
Wonderful. Okay, a few more questions. Eva writes that she's heard that you can either do physical mediumship or not, depending on your physical makeup. Is that what can you share about that?
Yes. So everyone has the capability of producing this form called plasma or ectoplasm, but a physical medium seems to have an abundance of it. Now, if you are looking at materialization, you are able to, your body has to be able to produce an abundance of it for the other world to work within. Some, like Leslie Flint, would have a small leakage, we can put it that way, coming from the gland at the back, which I'm going to probably say it wrong, but I'm going to try it, the medulla oblongata gland, which is the gland at the back there. And he was able to sit there and be stimulated, and that's when they formed the voice box. You can have a psychic phenomena, which doesn't need the production of ectoplasm, but still things will move. You can have spontaneous phenomena, and you would need to have a medium who's able to work with that power, and through that gift, phenomena takes place. If you looked at the mediumship of William Hope, was able to do psychic photography, and I'm not talking about orbs, I'm talking about these are proper vases, and he was able to do that, but he had to be present, which showed that a medium has to be present for phenomena to take place.
Wonderful. Okay, so Hazel would love to know which Silver Birch book was the beautiful quote from.
I have to be honest, Hazel, I've never read a book in my life. I'm heavily dyslexic, and you'll get to know that. But the Silver Birch quote, I just happened to go online, and it just appeared. And I think things appear at the right time for the right reason. And I just happened to see him. I saw the word seance room, and obviously I can read that, and I was like, oh, I need that. And I then have to use Google, and I have to type in on Google English to Dutch. Don't know why, but as I type that in, I put it on there, and there's a little microphone, and you click that, and it speaks it to you. So Silver Birch became female, and this voice came back and said, "To you, this is a little room," and so I found it that way. But the Silver Birch quotes that I've heard about the little room I found online, and the one about the activity of your world was actually given to us at a seminar when we were having an open forum like this, and I kind of said, I really like that, because it is important that we are listening all the time.
Scott, some other questions about the course. Will you be teaching students your method of sitting in the power?
Oh yes, because I can't teach anything else. Because if you are teaching it from your own experience, you're going to the core of the power. If you're using someone else's technique, it's like playing secondhand smoke. It just doesn't seem to work. I have to go into that power, and through the influence, it just starts to move into it. But I will explain different areas of how I moved in at the very beginning, and you kind of adapt it for your own way of sitting.
Okay. And also, I'm just reading this question. Okay. Okay. So Kelly says, do you have to be able to form a physical in-person circle as part of this course? Oh, do you have to form a physical circle in person as part of the course?
Well, no. It's basically you're laying the foundations of just trying to sit. Physical mediumship is extremely rare, and it is rare. We have to look within the auric field to see if there is the color predominantly known as red. Depending on where it is within the auric layer, will then show us the potential there of great phenomena. But again, it has many layers to it, it has many levels. So the red will have different degrees within it. I would like to think, and I use the word think, what people would benefit from this course is learning to sit. And while you sit and you move into that power and the other world starts to work upon you, then I give you the I don't like using the word tools, but give you the opportunities to then look at a different way of thinking where your approach to the spirit world is. And then hopefully with that all connecting as one, then the ignitement of your gift then will start to develop, and then other things will happen. I hope that makes sense.
Yes, it absolutely makes sense. But it sounds like from this course, students will gain a better understanding whether their path is one of physical mediumship or not.
Yeah, see, physical is I believe, in my humble opinion, that trance will only enhance all forms of mediumship. Do you like how I played on that word there? Trance will only enhance, you know, rhyme there.
Love it, love it.
I'm a poet. So I believe that our gifts are like a tree. It seems to grow, and when it's ready, it branches out. And one branch will grow stronger than the others, but it all supports and makes the tree whole. So I believe as you are sitting for that power, your mediumistic unfoldment starts to awaken. So your mental mediumship starts to unfold. That then moves you into the altered state, and the altered state then moves you to the trance state, and then the trance state leads you to the door of physical. So it seems to be, it's links in the chain. They're all relevant. They all seems to have its own unique. But at the heart of this circle, at the heart of all these links, is the power.
Okay, wonderful. Just a couple more questions here as we're winding down the hour. Let's see. Somebody said that they were a trance medium already. Oh, this is an interesting question. And then I'll get back to the other one. They're coming very quickly. So ways of protection. What is your view on that? Because somebody's asking, will you give us ways of protection from unhealthy entities?
I will be brutally honest, absolutely brutally honest. I don't necessarily agree with protection, but it's a personal thing for you guys. I work with the spirit world, and the spirit world are the greatest teachers, the greatest love of eternity. I believe we need protection from this world, not the spirit world. Bad things happen to us here, not from them. So trance is very much like falling asleep and waking up. You naturally move into it, you naturally move out of it. All the 20 years of studying, working at the Arthur Findlay College, traveling the world and seeing other people work, I have not seen anyone, and even when I look at them clairvoyantly and use my clairsentient ability, I've not once been in that environment. And when someone says they have, I look at them in a mediumistic capacity, and I see actually it's a sickness of the mind, not of the spirit. But if it feels right for you to ask for this and put that energy out there, then it's up to you. But I believe energy follows thought. If you are starting to create a fear, that then goes into the energy, into the atmosphere, and that itself can then be worked with. If you are sitting there and you move into the power and you know that this world of spirit is a beauty, and then it attracts it to you. Now, I can back up this theory by a lovely little story, and if you've got time, I would like to share it just quickly because I think it will have relevance, because someone said about poltergeist activity, which I saw as well.
Yes, absolutely.
Now, when people get activity of within their house or so, and this happened to a family of 4 in the Midlands, They had activity where the cupboards were opening, things were flying around the room, etc., and terrified the family. The police were called, the priest was called, and the last person ever to be called is always the medium. Always the medium. We're always the last little dot. So the medium who I know, who's a very respected medium and is very well known for what she does, attended this house. And as she went in, she was aware that there was a lot of scare and fear from the family because they've experienced what they did. She was aware that a spirit person was there, and she said, "Is this you causing all this fuss?" And the spirit person said, "Yes, but are you going to listen to me?" And she said, "Of course, this is what I'm here for." And this teenage boy from the spirit world started to say that there's a problem, and I would like you to go to the kitchen, and in the kitchen there's 3 cupboards. On the top cupboard, I want you to go to the top cupboard, go to the very back, and you will find a series of tins. The middle tin is the one I'm interested in. Please go there now. So the family was told by the medium, the spirit person is here, you're not crazy, they are causing all of this, but they've asked me to go to the kitchen, go to the top cupboard, there's some tins at the back, and I need to go there now. And as she said that, the youngest of the boys, of the children, started to get quite agitated. And she said, "Which cupboard is it?" And the cupboard door opened by itself. And she said, "Oh, that's interesting. I think I'll be out the door faster than anyone if I saw things like that." And she went up there and she put her hand at the back, and lo and behold, there was the tins. She opened up the tin, and inside there was drugs. And what happened was that the youngest of the lads which are living was being bullied at school to sell drugs. So he's been put in this situation, and the spirit person was trying to get them to move, trying to get them out of that environment, because the spirit boy died of an overdose. And he said, "I don't want any family to go through what my family went through." Now, when we hear stories like this, is this a bad spirit or is this a good spirit? I like to fall on the side of good spirit because we have to learn the reasons behind it. When things move, and you do hear me sometimes squeal like a pig when something lifts or we get a bang and it's outside of the seance room, it makes me jump, and it does happen quite often. I think you've probably heard me squeal a few times. Because it's spontaneous, I jump. But then once I start to become aware of the spirit world and I start to listen, and then I start to realize that every form of phenomena, if it's from the other world, is an intelligence, and there's a reason behind it. But there's many more stories about people saying that they've had bad spirits, but actually when we've dug our nails in and started to look at it, actually everything happens for a reason, and they're beautiful souls. Love the cup of tea, Rose.
Scott, if we could just take a couple minutes to talk about the dates of the course, and then maybe see about answering 1 or 2 more questions before we sign off. So let's see. I'm going to put them up there. So today is the introduction, and then you're actually doing 5 modules. So you've added a module to our original course, and I actually think on the time, Scott, we have it as 10 to 11:30, but I think we talked about having an extra half an hour for questions at the end of each module. Is that correct?
I think that's wise, because there's going to be a lot of stuff thrown at you, and I think we need to have time to talk like this and say, you know, I'm struggling with this. Can you give me my view and things like that, and then I'll do my best with you.
So they're going to be 2-hour sessions and 5 modules over the course from April 16th through June 21st. And also as a bonus, there'll be the Center for Mediumship. We have practice sessions of mental mediumship. So there are a few dates there where people can also join our mental mediumship practice sessions. Yes, this is being recorded, Sarah. And what else would you like to share about those? And each module, you have something, a specific topic that you're going to cover for us. Is that correct?
That's also correct. There's in each of the dates we will be covering. I'm going to structure it, and I kind of mentioned it earlier on. Like the first one will be what is mental mediumship versus physical mediumship, and trying to share the difference between the two, but also give you the opportunity, whilst we are working in that way, to give you the technique of moving into power. But I will also give you homework as well, where you will go away and you will sit and you will start to work with a prayer. You will start to work within this feeling, and then hopefully we'll have time to talk about that next time as well. I also would like to give you opportunities to research certain mediums. So if we're talking about direct voice, we will then look at John Campbell Sloan. We will look at Leslie Flint, and these are people who are experts in their field. So I would like us to give you homework on those different subjects as well, like Queenie Nixon with Transfiguration, Materialization with Carmine Marabelli, George Spriggs, but they're just named but a few.
And also, Dawn was asking if you can't make the live sessions, because we know that we have people coming from all over the world, so we're in different time zones. Each session will be recorded. So one, you can watch it live from the comfort of your own home, and two, if you're unavailable for the live session, it will be recorded and you will be able to review it. Correct, Scott?
Yes, absolutely. And it's there to be watched at your leisure, because obviously when we're in this moment, throughout our time that we've shared together, you've only heard bits of what I've said, because your minds have been wandering as well. So you hear what you need to hear at that moment, but when you replay it, you'll start to hear more things to that. So yes, it's there to be recorded and it's there to be devoured whenever you want.
I love that. And it sounds like there are a number of people who are taking it they're taking it to help strengthen their mental mediumship, Scott. Yeah. And I know you touched on that a bit, but for those of us who really want to take the course to strengthen our mental mediumship and learn your way of sitting in the power, what else can you share about that for our students?
Well, I think by sitting and learning to speak to the spirit world in the right capacity, I think that will help strengthen all capabilities. Learning that the feelings that you have around you are normal. Like with the trance state, a lot of people panic because the heart rate changes and they think their heart's going to pop out of the chest, and it's really just their soul recognizing that power. And once you start to realize that these peculiarities, what you're feeling, are normal, you surrender into the experience. And with your mental mediumship, a lot of people forget to involve the spirit people, the spirit communicator. They get so caught up in they're giving their message and trying to get more information, they're not actually reacting or moving with the influence of that spirit person that's trying to talk to you. I think that's it.
Great. Yeah, I know that we're kind of running out of time. No.
I'm sorry, someone's just asked about the Imposium. The AREI Symposium. I saw it just come up a few times. I will be there. In September, and I believe I'm doing 2 talks and a trance demonstration. There is a workshop, but I think that's separate. I don't know. I probably got myself into trouble. Sorry.
Okay, great. Let's see. I think that's it. I think, homework. During the class, will there be homework to specifically practice before we meet again?
Yes, please. Because I always believe a course is only going to benefit you if you go away and work at it. And if I could encourage you to be disciplined to sit, that's the only way you're going to get your mediumship. That's the only way you're going to work. And it's about sitting for the right intent So there will be times where I will ask you to raise a glass to the spirit world. I will ask you to raise a glass to the person that's wronged you, which is very simple, you may think. But then I also want you to sit and speak to the spirit world and see if you get an influence. But I will also send the thoughts to the spirit people, asking them to dust your consciousness with a thought, and we may be able to share that thought as well.
2 more questions. Eva's asking if raw materials such like crystals can help the energy in a development circle.
I believe crystals hold vibrations, and I do believe that. But with my unfoldment, I wasn't allowed to use anything like that. I had to go into the seance room as I am, leaving all my troubles at the door, and just go into the room, and empty-handed was I born and barefoot shall I leave was the mantra what was always going through my head. So I would always go into the seance room with as little as possible, and it's the love that you create, the voice that you create, the intent you set out, that is the power. So I would say if it helps you to focus, use it, but I would say don't allow it to become like a little blanket. See, it's like me, when I'm nervous, I do a Mavis Patilla trick, I hold a tissue, and if you notice that my hands have been free, so once I've relaxed to you guys and relaxed to this, I've moved into it. And it's like, if you use a crystal, you'll hold on to it straight away, and you'll think, oh, I can't do a demonstration if I don't have this crystal, and I won't have this because I've got that. Be free and be you.
And let's see, a lot of thank yous. I think this is Mary Ann, I'm not sure. So for those who are in mentorships right now, with Mavis or with Andy Bing, will this conflict, is her question.
Well, I always believe, and I know Mavis Patilla extremely well, I call her little grandmother. I think I can get away with that. Many, many years ago, and if you tell her, I will hunt you down and haunt you.
They might be on here. They might be on here.
Well, Mavis, years and years ago, when I first came into the movement, her nickname was Patilla the Hun. And because she was a formidable medium, and she is, but she was a formidable teacher. And you wouldn't dare say anything to her. And then she walked in, you would bow and all of that. And it was out of respect. But I know Mavis and I know Andy very, very well. And I hope that through their teachings that we can only complement each other. Now, my view of approach, as I look at you, if I say to you, what do you see first? You'll see the pen. If you ask me, what do I see first? I see the glass. And we're seeing the truth from different angles. And what I hope is that we work together. Now, physical mediumship and trance is different to mental, because mental is going outwards. You know, you're sending your energy out and you're becoming active. And with the physical, you're becoming passive. But for you to do trance, you kind of have to go into the active state, and then the spirit people then induce the trance state. So hopefully it kind of links one to another. But please don't tell Mavis I said Patilla the Hun.
It may be too late, Scott. I know
Is there
that
such a thing as delete or reincarnation?
I know that you know, Jean was wanting to join in today. I'm not sure if she had a chance to or not. So. All is forgiven. So, and some say they're going to email her right now. So, well, thank you so much, Scott, for your wealth of knowledge, experience, and wisdom. And look at him blush.
I've got a proper summer going on. People don't realize that men go through menopause, and I think I've gone through it.
Oh goodness. And I know that I'm so excited to begin your course, and actually I'll be seeing you next week too, but I'm really excited that we were able to work this out to put this course together between Nick, yourself, and I, and Christine's help. And I look forward for us working with every student on the course. And thank you so much for everyone for joining Scott today. And again, thank you, Nick and Scott.
Oh, thank you so much. Has Vicky got a parrot on her head?
Yes, she does. And he barks like a dog.
Awesome. I thought, well, in one of the seances, we had one of those materialize and fly around the room. So I was like, oh, she's good. She's doing it in light. But thank you so much for joining me. Someone's in a bakery. Amazing. That's awesome. I would have 2 donuts, please. Thank you so much for letting me be a part of your world. If it's the first and last time that we are together, please enjoy your gift. And remember, you are the healers between the 2 worlds, healing the need of the bereaved as well as healing the need of the spirit. So enjoy yourself. Learn to laugh at yourself. Learn to laugh at death, because the spirit people have said the greatest lie in this world is death, as there is no death. If anyone is loved, they will always be with you. We're only dead to this world if we're forgotten. So raise a glass tonight to someone who you love in the spirit world, and it brings them back to life.